You play video games. I play video games. Are you one of those people who think that we're NPCs living in a video game like simulation, or are we the gamer and we're completely in control?
It's a great question. I think it's an existential question where many people, if they truly believe in the simulation, will instinctively think, well, I must be a real player. Well, the best NPCs that we've seen in games, and they keep getting better and better, are the ones that look and feel as if it could be an MMO and that's a real human behind it. I think calling somebody an NPC is one of the smartest, funniest insults you can have these days. I hope I'm a real human, and if I'm in some goo in the Matrix, logged into the whatever, and this is my simulation, but I'm real, cool. I don't think I'm ever going to find out. I don't know if at the end of this journey, there's a guy in a cloud and I walk through pearly gates. Cool. Sounds great. Or if I wake up in the year 3000 and I got to fight alien robots. Cool. Great. But what I do, with everybody talking about the simulation and NPCs these days, something to go back to is one of the more recent reasons the simulation theory even became part of the conversation. And it's a Nick Bostrom piece with Oxford, like a decade and a half ago. But it's just a simple equation. So when people ask me, do I believe this is a simulation? I go, I don't know. But here's the math behind it. If there is only one true reality, we're going to call that one. There is one. Okay. And if n equals infinity, and n represents the number of potential simulated universes, okay, the equation for if we're in a simulation is n minus 1. So infinity minus 1, which equals infinity. So there's an infinite chance that this is a simulation. And I go, okay, that math checks out. That is scary. But scary in, I guess, more of a good Ridley Scott sci-fi sort of scary. Like, oh my God, all this belief of humanity with Jesus and Mohammed, et cetera. Is that just part of a story that we've built inside this computer simulation? So I don't know if I'm an NPC or a real boy, but I do know that it is a belief system that I think is just as valid as many other belief systems.
How would you feel and how would you react if one day you found out that we are NPCs?
So
would life be any different?
I don't know. But when people ask, like, why am I fascinated with virtual reality and augmented reality? I go, if I'm in a simulation or I'm the reality prime, it doesn't matter, because something that I would be interested in creating or being involved with, because you need the Metas and the Apples of the world to build the billions of dollars worth of tech, but creating an experience that truly captures all of your senses. And for 5 minutes, an hour, a second, I don't know how long, I've convinced you are completely somewhere else. We see it sometimes when we do VR and we take it off and we look at our clock and, oh my God, I was in there for an hour. It felt like 5 minutes. But I always, as much as people say like, oh, I felt like I was someone else, I'm like, you knew that you were a human. You knew that it was the year 2023, et cetera. But excuse me, I believe that within, let's call it 50 years, I'm certain of it. Within 10 years, I'm confident in it, that all the senses will be able to convince you are somewhere else, especially when we start talking about the legalization of a lot of psychotropic drugs. So you've got the legalization of marijuana in like 36 states for at least recreational or medical use. You've got psilocybin being, I think, greenlit in either Colorado or California, like those states, the first ones to go for it. And if you can start pairing these experiences in a clinical, interesting sort of way, similar to if you order a steak, they offer you alcohol. If you order a VR experience, will one day in 10 years, they offer you some sort of psychotropic. I have a very strong feeling that we're going to convince people that they're a real person in a simulation inside of this one. So it's a really weird situation when I think about, am I in the simulation? I'm like, I don't know, but I like waking up every day trying to make someone feel like they're in one inside of this reality.
When I live my sober everyday life, I never actually ask myself, what's in my NPC programming today?
Yeah.
I never. But the only times that I do start thinking about this in like a weird, like infinite regression kind of way is when I'm on psilocybin. And I wonder if that's just the fungus, like, because apparently like humans and fungi have more in common than humans and plants. But I wonder, like, okay, this thing from the earth, like maybe it's trying to tell me something and I should read into it.
Yeah, I wish I was the expert in this stuff, but it seems like more and more in the technology podcasts, they're talking about the acacia tree history and psilocybin, and it's And when they speak about their experiences, it sounds a lot more productive than the most common legal substances in the States, which are alcohol and tobacco and coffee, right?
Yeah.
I've never heard someone say, "Oh man, I smoked so many cigarettes, I met God." It's like, did you? Like, that's not a thing. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time for us. In fact, this is because I know you wanted to talk about AI a bit. I'll end with this on this question, which is the AI that's happening right now, ChatGPT, Google code reading and getting all nervous, Microsoft throwing money at OpenAI. The difference between this technological revolution versus others is I think this is the first time we're really starting to replace our cognitive capabilities. We've done a lot we used to write with quill pens, typewriters, and now computer processing, no problem. My hand was augmented from, chiseling to writing to typing, fine. Well, let's talk about transportation. I used to walk everywhere, and then I got a bike or rode a horse, and I got on a rocket ship. Okay, cool. But the brain was always this. If the body was a castle, the brain was the keep. Like, no one broke into that part. ChatGPT, if anybody's used it, it starts to get real interesting real fast, where I haven't had to think as much. It's been great. I've dedicated some of my cycles to other tasks and questions, but it's actually offloaded a lot of my thoughts, my thinking, my learning of coding, because I could just ask it to write the code that I need. So my point on that is, with psilocybin, use it as a substance that can make your body feel a lot of ways. It definitely also augments your brain. So it's this, will there be a moment that if ChatGPT is based on data sets that are created by humans, do we need to find ways to expand our mind? And is that how the wetware of humanity becomes smarter than the robots, because we're focused on meditation and awareness and experimentation with mind-altering substances? Is that how we always stay one step ahead of the AI? I'm not advocating that. I just think it's a fun question to ask, because we're at that time.
100%. There's a lot of science and research that shows microdosing in psilocybin, or maybe even LSD, does create more new neural pathways in the brain, which is very similar to how machines learn when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that I'm inclined to study, learn, and maybe, preach psilocybin is because I took a class in college called Psilocybin and Society.
Oh, cool.
And
They must have talked about Terrence McKenna and all those folks.
I think so. I didn't really think much about the class back when I was going to college,
Yeah,
but
that makes
it
sense.
always stuck with me. And I thought, you know what? There's probably a reason why I decided to take it, and I received an A+.
Oh, nice. Okay, sweet.
I'm pretty sure you have so much to say about this new frontier, I suppose. But what are your thoughts on it in terms of where we are now, where we might be 5 or 10 years from now? And I guess, what should we really be concerned about?
I always listen to the smartest people in the room. Everybody can have their opinion of who is the smartest people alive, but I try to look at folks, no matter what their political beliefs are, or if you don't like certain tweets they put out, who are the people that are truly inventing the future? And folks like Elon Musk, the number one fear that they have, and they have said it for a decade, is the advancements of AI, and rather uncontrolled AI, or he has a more eloquent way of describing it. I'm a huge World War II, Cold War history buff, and you look at the new Christopher Nolan film Oppenheimer coming out about the genius that did a lot of great work, but one thing he is probably most known for is the creation of the nukes. And I am Shiva, becomer of death. Like, he saw what this was. He probably loved the technology for a variety of reasons, including, like, we could use this for energy. Well, that energy can also be used to just make cities topple in seconds. And so you're looking at ChatGPT, and I am not a professed AI expert in any way, shape, or form. My background is business development, strategy, product development, and that sort. But to be a good person in that field, you have to be curious, and you have to be interested in reading up on anything and everything in a variety of spaces. But AI is the hot topic for the past several years, but especially the past 6 months. AI is probably, going back to the brain analogy, if we have a castle with a bunch of stone walls, that keep of the brain I don't know what we're going to do if it truly replaces our thinking. ChatGPT, I think this past week, passed the New York State bar exam. What does that mean? Does that mean the professional account on ChatGPT will be used by lawyers to help win their accounts? Does that mean all legal cases are going to be based on that? And what if 99% of legal cases are based on that, and then the judges submit all the evidence that were submitted from people through ChatGPT to determine what the verdict should be? And then we start getting into some fun sci-fi. I think sci-fi is a great predictor of tomorrow, or can be. And that reminds me of, Minority Report. I think it was Philip K. Dick's book, but the Tom Cruise film, and it could be someone else. Maybe it's Huxley or someone, but the fact that you could do pre-crime. Well, we'll call this post-crime, but maybe the determination of outcomes is going to be based upon AI models because we believe they're more honest and the human element needs to get removed. Well, that gets really, really crazy pretty quick because there's a lot of good paying jobs, to go more tactical with it, that are paralegals and people in the courthouses. Okay, so now they're out on the street. We could replace their work because now we're just sourcing materials from these data sets. There are 8 billion people on the planet now. Like, what are we possibly going to do if all of these jobs get replaced? The last thing I'll say in that though is, I'm sure if I'm quoted on this, it'll be like that person that was quoted when the computer came along and they were all nervous about the typists. They're all going to lose their jobs. And then like 1.5 times the amount of jobs showed up for computer programmers and whatnot. So there's a lot of great fields of study that are going to come out of this. I think if I was to, I'm sure LinkedIn's going to have this in like today, where someone is going to start putting their posts like expert chat GPT question asker, like that, whatever the more eloquent title of that would be. Prompt creator for chat GPT, like an expert of that. Because it'll be almost like a piano. I think chat GPT is like a piano. You can't just start mashing keys. You're not going to get what you need out of it. But if you learn you learn music theory and you take some lessons, you can play almost anything. And I think we're going to have to learn, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for folks that are willing to take the time.
I agree. I think that's also why I'm so interested in talking to intelligent people like yourself and hopefully other experts in AIs, because I feel like we're smart. So why don't we try to outwit the AI if we're really scared about it, right?
And do you know what's funny about this? So, well, first off, you mentioned, I don't know what you brought up, but it was your mind, and there was like a computer element, and it made me think of that Magic School Bus episode. I don't know if you grew up on Magic School Bus, but there was a Miss Frizzle episode that explained how the human body is like a computer. And so I still understand this to this day, how we're just recreating ourselves. It's CPU is the brain, short-term memory is the RAM, long-term memory is the hardboard, the skeletal structure and our senses are the motherboard, all this stuff. Sorry, what was your question? It just made me think of the Magic School Bus episode.
My question was, well, it wasn't so much of a question. It was just kind of a commentary. Like, I just want to learn more about AI so that we can harness it. And if it's really so smart, like, why don't we try to just outwit the AI?
Well, I got a question for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we deserve to be around in 1,000 years, humans? I'll just ask it that way. Or do we deserve to be, and will we be? Two different questions, but I'm curious. Have we earned the right to be around, and will we be regardless? Minus like catastrophes like comets.
I completely understand your question. And I think if we do still exist 1,000 years from now, that means we have figured out a way to exist. And those who have existed, which I predict is only going to be a small percentage, it's not going to be billions of people, or at least I hope not. But let's just say that, a handful of people still existed 1,000 years from now, then those people have every right to be, because they have found a way to not just work together with the technology, mesh with the resources, but they also have found a peace with nature. And I think at the heart of everything, you cannot go against nature.
I don't disagree or agree with any of that. I think it's a correct answer, but it's like, I don't know. Like, who knows?
Nobody knows.
So we're Homo sapiens. Imagine we build Homo roboticus. It's perfect. It's a human, looks human-ish. We all agree that it should have voting rights. It's the year 2500. Homo roboticus can vote. There's riots in the streets of people that say humans only, and the robot's like, we exist. Okay, cool. Now it's the year 2700. The civil rights for robots has happened. They're total equal citizens. A plague hits. We actually have like a COVID times 1,000, and only like 1,000 of us survive. Mm-hmm. So the species has replaced itself, but we're technically the ones that helped make that next version. Is that an extension of Homo sapiens? Is that the same line, or did we essentially make sentient Roombas that are just now essentially our artifacts? If the pyramids were the artifacts of the Egyptians, of all humanity are artifacts, these talking machines. I don't know, but I do think that we're on that path where we're gonna be able to create something that feels real human real soon. There's a story, and gosh, I wish I knew the name. I would sound incredibly smart, and someone listening is going to be like, "Oh, it's the story of the ship." But the story is essentially there's a ship. It comes into port. They slowly start replacing it piece by piece. Okay, so one piece of wood has been replaced. If you have an old ship and you replace one piece of wood, is it still the same ship? What do you think?
One eternity later.
Oh, you're asking me. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It wasn't dramatic pause. Is it still the same ship? You've replaced one piece of wood. I have like 4 questions in a row. I'll get to the point in a sec.
Well, yeah, I mean, the spirit of the ship is still the same.
Perfect. Now there's only 1,000 pieces of wood on this ship. Now I'm going to replace 100 pieces of wood. Is it still the same ship? Looks the same, feels the same, can't even tell. You are the only person that knows these pieces were replaced.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Okay, now we're going to replace every piece on that ship over the course of a year. It's been completely changed. It looks the same. Sails the same, feels the same, but every piece is different. Is it the same ship?
I would say, in a general sense, yeah.
Good. So
ship.
This is one of those that you can either have an answer or the tree falls in a wood sort of thing. But the reason I bring that up is all of this Neuralink stuff, where we start talking about AI, robots on one side, humans, all naturals on this side. But really what we're going to start facing soon is augmenting your own wetware, your physical meat suit, and start adding this technology to instantly have access. Now imagine 10 years, you have a Neuralink hooked up to ChatGPT, and I can immediately know the answer to where that story comes from, the author, the exact language, and it hooks up to my throat and mouth, and I just spew it out in the most eloquent way. Mm-hmm. That is a very interesting moment in time where we are now part human, part robot, part AI. And the reason I brought up the ship story was if I keep replacing my pieces, bionic ears, bionic legs, bionic heart, bionic everything, bionic brain, am I still Chadwick? I don't have an answer for that because I don't know. Is it all powered by Google? Is it a Google Apple rivalry? My brain's an Apple, but my heart's a Google. They don't work together. But these things will be brought up at a future point if we make it, where at what point did you cease being, human, and you dipped your toe on the other side and now you're more AI than you are human. It's a crazy world. It's going to get weird fast.
Well, I am Chinese. I don't know if that wasn't obvious already, but the Chinese people believe in this thing called Tao, and we're all like, go with the flow, be like water.
I dig it.
Even though sometimes change is very intimidating, I look at the progress of technology and I am not resistant to it. And so if this is the way that it is, I am totally open to going with this flow. Yeah.
I think for me, it's I like going fast in a car, but I always have a seatbelt on. I'm always checking my rear view and blinders to make sure I'm not endangering anybody nor myself. So right now in this moment of time where all this cool stuff's happening, like my background's all these VR headsets that I love immersing myself in new toys and tech, but I'm a little trepidatious and I'm just trying to like figure out what's missing from the safety of all this cool new tech that's starting to pop up. Because every time I like, what was it? They put lead in gasoline for some sort of benefit. I don't know what the benefit was, but then there was like for a decade, people were having lead poisoning because of the gas. So now gas still says unleaded 50 years later. So we see all this stuff as benefits now, but there's always a yin and a yang on all this stuff where, oh my God, we had easy access to any piece of information. We never had to learn. Okay, well, then I think one of the negatives is maybe all these kids won't have to learn. They're just going to be editing robot papers. My nephews are going into high school. And if I was in high school and ChatGPT came out, oh my gosh, I can't tell you that I would use it all the time. All the time. Oh, we're reading Scarlet Letter? Got it. You need a 3-page book report? No problem. I can't imagine how these teachers are going to check. There's no way.
But right now, artists in general are very vocal about being anti-AI. And, as we've seen like Midjourney and DALL-E do some really amazing things, I see a lot of content creators moving away from traditional artists. So do you have a solution to that? Like, how do we make sure that artists are also able to get money and contribute to the economy, but also allow the AI to evolve?
Yeah. So again, I would love for anybody that follows this show and wants to make comments on how I'm wrong here, please let me know. But I have a sneaking suspicion here's what's happened the past 20 years, past 100 years, but really the past 20. We, as in humans that use these big technology platforms, Google, Meta, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever, DeviantArt, all of these platforms, we have given all of our data to them. They all have AI initiatives, and they have these huge data sets to draw from to build their chat GPTs of the world. We're now, because we got all these, if it's free, you're the product, all that stuff. We're now faced with, they now have these data sets that they've built off, and they've built these really cool tools. And we've willingly, probably in those terms of service that everybody jokes about, that were, oh my God, these terms are so crazy. No one reads them. But I'm like, okay, well, this is now probably the byproduct of that, where some of these pieces of art might not have been properly protected. I'm not saying that that's spiritually right. I'm just saying that it seems that there's data sets that big companies have, and they're able to create tools based on that. Now, I know there's the lawsuit going on right now. A bunch of artists, lots of them actually, are going after, I think, DeviantArt, Midjourney, and DALL-E, which is cool. I'm fascinated to watch what happens. But it's going to be really interesting to ask them for their data set and bring that to a court of law. That data set must be in the millions, tens of millions, billions of things. And then you figure out, like, how does this actually work? And that's probably going to be protected and closed doors and all that stuff. So how do you solve it? Again, not a developer, but if I just put hey, Elon Musk calls or Bill Gates calls and hands me a check and says, go solve it, Chadwick, I would say, well, APIs are the ways for applications to talk to one another. And a lot of applications like log in with Google on this other website. Cool. It's an API for that website. We need APIs of me. I need an API that is the Chadwick Turner data set. You need to have your own, and we need to start actually controlling our own personal information and data. Just like how on your iPhone or any phone you can turn on and off notifications. We all need the ability to finally monetize our own data, control our own data, blockchain our own data, not to use a buzzword that gets overused a little bit, but truly own this. And so as you go from site to site, you can decide, can they have my personal identifiable information, or can they have my website tracking, which we kind of do with cookies already, but it's always inside of some sort of big tech ecosystem. That's not going to change unless, we as a society demand it. Moments like this happen where the artists sue and a solution is created. But what it's likely going to take is a platform to exist, something that has some sort of reach like a TikTok, but with the foundational aspect that you are logging in with a protocol that is protected and completely owned by you. And so you protect your own data. It's been talked about so much. The problem with this is it's probably never going to be as pretty or cool. And the whole social graph that all these companies have won't be able to be easily deployed. So it'll be uglier than the other things available that also have access to your data and you purposely put it in there. It's the network effect, right? You go to Instagram because everybody's on Instagram. So if you're building a show, you should have an Instagram page and show all your stuff on it. That way people can be aware of it because I think Meta says they have like 3 billion users. Like that, what are you going to do? Start your own thing. So it's going to have to be like a movement where everybody says, we're going to reinvent how this whole thing works. A company I would watch for that in this space, just the Web3 new version of all this, Lamina One. I've been fortunate to talk to some of those folks in the past, but the founder, who I've not had a chance to speak to, but I would love to, and you should try to get him on your show, but Neil Stevenson, the writer of Snow Crash, I think he was the chief visionary officer for Magic Leap for a time, but now he's one of the founders of Lamina One, I believe with Tony Parisi and someone else. But essentially, they're just trying to build the open source, open web for the metaverse. It's something to the group of folks that has started Lamina One are folks that if they say something, a lot of folks listen. And so if they build something truly valuable, and since they already have an audience, it could be one of the many solutions that shows up the next 10 years. So I hope the artists get what they want. I hope that they're protected because art is the reason for living. I do have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be a very, very difficult battle to try to prove how these tools work and stole their stuff, because I'm sure at some point one of them signed a piece of paper that said that was okay.
I'm one of those people that actually gain a lot from Midjourney.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I do want to credit whoever created it, but I guess
wouldn't that be an interesting like outcome of this, where it shows you percentage based, like a 23andMe. This is 5% this, 10% that, and then they, I know they just launched with like $40 a month their professional version, faster cycles, things like that. Maybe it's like a Spotify. If they get forced to show how their equation works, and they could still black box how it actually works, but through that they can pay out royalties to the source. Because at some point in this crazy mishmash, there has to be some sort of source imagery. People think it's all like, oh, these robots are sentient. I'm like, no, there's data
exactly
powering these models. The models are just really cool, and they're pulling different pieces and making it feel like a brand new piece.
I'm really excited that you touched upon the metaverse, which is something I wanted to talk to you about for a long time. But before we get into that, real quick, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get to where you are today, working at Amazon, Meta, and then founding your own company and everything?
Yeah, I was obsessed with films as a kid. I think I went to like Ask Jeeves at the time, for those that are old enough to remember that search engine, typed in top film school in the world, and it said University of Southern California. So I said, sure, that's where I'm going. Humble beginnings, did not have necessarily the funds just to pay for that school, but said, whatever, let's go. So submitted an application. At the time, you could not submit a portfolio of work. So I had done a lot of short films and fun little projects with friends, but USC didn't care. They just wanted you to write a entrance essay. And I don't remember all the fine points. I'm sure it was garbage, but the theme that I wrote about was how the Matrix is the Bible, and just basically analyzed how the Matrix and the Bible, it's just one for one. Like Neo is Jesus, all that stuff. And this is before the sequels, or maybe just after. I have to look at the timeline, but around that time. Matrix, I think, was 99. The sequels were like 2002 and things like that. So I went to college in 2005. Went to USC, wanted to be a film director again, and quickly found out that I was not an artist. I just love the art. Sometimes you have to separate yourself and say you can love something and be bad at it. Plenty of people love basketball and can't hit a three-pointer for the life of them. So I went to business school that had an entertainment focus, and then went to the agency world, worked at Creative Artist Agency, then realized that technology was taking over entertainment and did not want to just get stuck in a world where I'm pushing papers and I'm not in the tech side. So then
You're also not an asshole, so I don't think
It was, I'll tell
Wizard
you what,
calling.
the agency world, there are some really good ones, but I will say that some of the stereotypes are very true. It is a very difficult business to be in. And unfortunately, you know what the hardest part about working at an agency and just not having a lot of funds to sit around for 2 years. So how I sold it to myself was if I wanted to work in entertainment, this is our version of grad school. Going to CAA, William Morris, all of these agencies essentially was they'll pay you at the time like $30,000 per year in Los Angeles, but it's the inverse of going to grad school. So okay, you're in grad school, no problem. The problem was a lot of how you got ahead was you came with a lot of relationships. So if you weren't born in the industry with a laundry list of, oh, my mom knows X celebrity and I know that you had to go find all these relationships, and you're there from 9 to 7, which means you had to tell people you worked at CA, William Morris, UTA, whatever, and they would answer. They'd be excited you're an assistant. Maybe you're going to be a big deal one day. But then you'd go to drinks. Drinks in Los Angeles, even if you go to a dive bar, $20, $30. If you go to the nice bars that everybody wanted to go to that you're going to invite, it's $100. That literally was your pay for 2 days. So you couldn't even afford being in that world for more than like a year or two because you're just trying to survive. I lived in a studio apartment with 2 other people. One person lived in my kitchen. One person lived in my, quote, living room, which was the foot of my bed. And we just shared the rent just to make it work. So I implore anybody that wants to work in entertainment, work in an agency. Lots of great experiences, but just be mindful that it's at least when I was there, very, very tough to make ends meet. All right, we'll wrap this up quick. I worked at a technical consultancy next called Cognizant. They support all the studios. So for folks that love entertainment but want to work really on the cutting edge of technology and digital distribution, I was in charge of helping films get distributed around the world, but not sitting in a boardroom making deals, rather the ones and zeros of the hard drives, like making sure they went to the servers and checking in on that, Mexico City had Alvin and the Chipmunks 2 on time. Like that was my job. And then Amazon recruited me and I went to work in their games group. During that time, one of these headsets, they might be cut off, but the Oculus DK1 was launched on Kickstarter. I became obsessed. I quit Amazon, worked at a number of startups in VR. My last big project before COVID was a big King Tut experience that was touring in London next to Boston, all this stuff. And then COVID hit. And then I went back to Amazon, worked at Prime Gaming, and last was at Meta for about a year. And then I think like 13,000 of us got let go. And so now I'm just back to entrepreneurship, which has been a lot of fun. 2 months back. My muscles are reforming, but it's been a lot of fun just working on projects now.
I think a lot of people know that Meta threw a lot of money into the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
What happened exactly? I don't know if you're able to break it down for us, but was a lot of progress made? Did Zuckerberg achieve everything he set out to achieve? Where are we with that?
Yeah, what I'm supposed to say, this is my personal opinion and not any sort of official anything of the company. I will say this, I believe that Meta is very well positioned, and we need people like Zuckerberg to throw money at things knowing that it might not be solved. Like you just go like, hey, I don't know. We're going to have to build this plane while we're flying it. So I do respect him for that. In fact, I respect him for really kickstarting this industry with regards to the $1 billion he threw at Oculus to start with. The moment that happened, it unlocked a lot of venture capital funded money and go, oh, wait, this really, really, rocket ship of a company called Facebook at the time just put $1 billion into VR. It unlocked hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in like seed funding for all of these startups that if they're students of history and if they're honest, they probably could trace the reason they got that money to what Zuckerberg saw with his Oculus acquisition. I think everybody in the metaverse space is dealing with one simple problem, and that's breakthroughs are hard. Like technical breakthroughs are really, really, really hard. There's a reason why they're called breakthroughs. It's because you're just hitting it, and then it breaks through. Finally, something happened. And I think it was Meta was really great about always being very open. A lot of the senior leaders would have weekly videos and they'd talk about things. But I think that one of the public commentaries, like Michael Abrash, one of the real smart chief research scientists, he always did a talk at Meta Connect. But one of the hard things that everybody has to solve, from Apple to Google to Meta, is everybody wants it to look like this. Everybody wants it to be high definition, and everybody wants it to last all day. Battery technology is really, really, really tough. And honestly, if I had a lot of money right now, I would invest in cobalt. Like the amount, like I think there's 18 cobalt mines in the world. And I think China has 16, if not 17 of them. And I believe we just found a huge repository in Idaho, which is why America, the United States, is such a friggin' great country with regards to resources. We have deserts and oceans on both sides and Rocky Mountains. And so we find resources that we need. It's very much like the game Civilization. It's like, oh, we're on the next stage. Like, do we have any cobalt? Yes. And the reason why cobalt's important is it's part of all of this next generation battery technology, smartphone technology, et cetera. So what went wrong versus what went right? Everybody's dealing with the same headaches of breakthroughs and adoption and things like that. I think what's impressive, I think the number was $1.5 billion in revenue for the Meta App Store. Beat Saber's still killing it, doing cool things. But there's a long way to go. But I think, the last point I'll make on the Meta side is if they capture, I think they said like 3 or 3.5 billion, I don't know the number, but whatever their public number and how many users they have, if they can keep slowly rolling out more updates to Quest 2, Quest 3, Quest 4, and finally release their smart glasses, et cetera, if they capture 1% of that audience, they're one of the biggest platforms on the planet for live service games. If they capture 10%, I believe they're competing with the Minecrafts of the world. If they capture 15%, they're the top platform. And if history is an indicator, it seems like WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook all have roughly the same ballpark of numbers. So if Meta achieves a 50% adoption of their version of the metaverse, they're doing just fine. They're doing just fine. So we'll see. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm glad I'm on the sidelines, though, because now I can talk about it.
I personally am not a huge fan of how Facebook and Instagram tracks my preferences, and I don't like all the personalized ads.
Yeah.
But one thing that I completely agree with is I love that he spent a lot of money and he has the confidence to spend a lot of money on the metaverse, because this is a topic that I'm extremely interested in.
Yeah.
And also kind of how you and I became friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a fun 4-hour conversation of just like, so wait, what do you do? What do you want to accomplish? Yeah. And so Zuckerberg is the last of a dynasty of founders from 20 years ago that he's still in charge, and he has preferred shares, which means, and he owns majority stake or whatever his allotment is. Like, he controls the company. There is no other big, like Tim Cook probably has the capability in some way, shape, or form of making a decision of like, we're going to throw a 10 billion at whatever, the metaverse, but not like Zuckerberg does. Like, Zuckerberg can make that decision. There is a board, sure, but he actually controls the company, which is really fun to watch. So he can throw money at this stuff. I think he's properly doing adjustments now and refocusing us on some of the core businesses. But to make these breakthroughs happen, whether or not the tracking here and there, you don't like to have breakthroughs occur, you need, what's the Steve Jobs quote? Here's to the crazy ones. You need the people that just want to see it done. We know we don't know how we're going to get there, but get in the boat. We're going to the new world.
The last time we talked about the metaverse for 4 hours, I was trying to show you that China has its own definition of the metaverse. And Meta clearly has its own definition of the metaverse, which is right now heavily reliant on having the right goggles and the headgear. And it's almost like a video game simulation. Meanwhile, China is more reliant on this sort of cross reality, but mostly like augmented reality technology that I think one day just requires more like projecting visuals onto something so that you don't have to wear any headgear. Where do you see the metaverse evolving from here?
So there's the extended reality spectrum, right? So from augmented to mixed to virtual, and it's what's the difference? Augmented, I always picture like a heads-up display. Potentially, it doesn't care about occlusion. It just like gives you information. I can imagine my sunglasses one day just popping up and saying, "You have a new message from Emily." Cool. Augmented. I have information. I still see my world, but I got new information up. Mixed reality, how I've always defined it, and again, people in the chat, people in the comments, feel free to argue with this. But how I've always defined it as mixed is when you superimpose that information on the real world and it looks as if it's truly on top of it. So imagine you're playing Pokemon Go, but Pikachu can hide behind your kitchen table and you got to find him. Okay. Mixed reality. Still see your kitchen table, pass through mode on your headsets, whatever. And the digital objects are actually layering into your world as if they truly were there. Virtual reality is the full immersion, like you're on a space station, you're going back 300 years in time. Like that's the spectrum as I see it. I think in the Western world, Meta has a really good position right now with regards to virtual reality. I also think it could be argued on the augmented reality side, they're doing great with regards to avatars and face filters and things like that. Baby steps, right? But yeah, they're fine. But Tim Cook has come out, and I think the artillery intelligence reports, which a lot of folks read, it's funny. They show like 2022, 2023, 2024, and then 2025, they show Apple smart glasses. And it just shows them like immediately being 80% market leader in the Western world, like immediately. But they're probably basing that off of the smartwatch and the AirPods and every other Apple device that when it's released, it becomes the dominant player in the space. Now, this is these rumored smart glasses, which supposedly got delayed because of, again, the breakthroughs. They haven't had that breakthrough moment versus their headset, their VR, MR headset that's supposed to come out this year or get announced. So I think Apple is probably the more comparative company with regards to what China's trying to accomplish, simply because I think it used to be Apple used to be second, third most popular smartphone in the US. I think they're number one now. Like it used to be, there's more Samsung devices or Android devices. I think Apple surpassed it now. So not only are they have the scale of Honda, but the price of a Ferrari. But they're going to be probably the dominant player in like what is that superimposition of information on the real world. I think what China has going for them as well is a certain level of being able to pick and choose and just make things happen. I know that I have a lot of civil engineers in my family, and they've sent me videos of China building a hospital or building a bridge in like 3 days. It's like, hey, we wanted to build a bridge. We're building a bridge. The bridge is built. Okay. If they want to build a metaverse and they say, we're going to do it this way, they've decided, and they say, okay, Tencent and everybody like get on board WeChat here. This is how it's going to work. You've been greenlit to have access to 1.2 billion people, like go do it. That probably means they're going to be there very quick and make some really great breakthroughs. My biggest concern on all of that is I don't want to see two internets. I don't want to see two metaverses. I know that, it is what it is, but, hopefully we're not too far behind the breakthroughs that we'll see out of China because it's pretty impressive.
Since the last time we spoke, I think most of the metaverse that I showed you, it was this sort of like AR visual that you can really only have access to if you use your phone.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of years, China starts to adopt glasses or create their own version of what Tim Cook is trying to design and put out there.
Yeah, there was an article. I wish I remember, but it was a really good piece about Apple and China. Like people are talking about Apple shifting some of their chip capacity to India or shifting even more to Taiwan, all that stuff. And the article went through, they're going to be doing that. The problem is the increased interest in Apple products requires them to also increase the reliance on manufacturing in China. So the estimates are actually that even though Apple is currently trying to focus on US-based assembly and all these assembly plants, the majority of core manufacturing from the very beginning, not the assembly stage, but the core piece of like from the start of cobalt and all this stuff, it's going to still be built in China. In fact, more so will. Now, this is all estimates and it's not from Apple. It's people analyzing it. But the connective tissue between the country of China and Apple is something that cannot be decoupled for, gosh, I don't know, 50 to 100 years. They're in lockstep. So yeah, for what it's worth, I think China's success is Apple's success, and Apple's success is China's success.
Those words sound so beautiful.
Well, the person that coined the original version of I think was Michael Dell. If I remember business school correctly, it talked about how the reason the US and China, the worst case scenario for our relationship as countries, will be adversaries, not enemies. It's because we are so entrenched with each other. Like you can't actually really have an enemy status between the two of us because we rely on each other too much. The reason we're the two big superpowers is we both like to trade with, like, they build a lot of stuff, we build stuff, we buy stuff, they buy stuff. And it was Michael Dell that kind of pointed that out in like the 90s when it was, China has of course been on this ascension for a while, but that was a real big moment where the GDP, I think everybody in the 90s was talking about, well, Japan's falling, what's next? Oh, look at China, they're going to cross us one day. And Michael Dell was building computers at the time. And he's like, yeah, well, good news is we're so reliant on each other. We're always, at worst case, just going to be adversaries. Hopefully we're allies and friends, but we're not going to, we need each other. We need each other. Big hug.
Hey, I was born in China,
Yeah.
but I have an American citizenship. I feel equally loyal to both sides because both cultures have offered me so much. And I don't want to be stuck in between because, if I go back to China right now, nobody wants me. But being here, I also don't want to experience all the racism and the anti-China hate. So, I think if anything, Asian Americans like myself want this tension to go away more than anything.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So there's a lot of, I think one of the most important things anybody can do, but we're not fortunate in the US to be living in Europe where you literally can, from France, get on a train, go see 30 countries in like a week and really immerse yourself in other cultures. America is great because we have so many cultures, melting pot, et cetera, but sometimes you just need to go travel the world a bit and understand that America is a great country. We have so many things to be thankful for, but we're not the only great country. There's a lot of greatness around this world. And the only way you're going to recognize that is if you just see it. You see it. I know maybe China's not on everybody's list to go visit, but go get it, or read up on it. Yes. The Chinese culture is a beautiful one. We'll figure this out. We'll figure this out. We're going to solve it. Maybe that's what this podcast is about. It'll be called the World Peace Podcast.
Is there a field of study that you feel like we're sleeping on? Like, if there's something you would recommend the younger generation just start studying right now so they can be better prepared for a future of AI, what would you say that would be?
I think the schools need to replace the foreign language requirement with a coding requirement.
Right.
I think add JavaScript as one of the languages. We call it a language for a reason, except this one is just as important as the others. In fact, JavaScript or some other coding language might one day create the universal translator, which allows us to hear other people's languages. So I think that's the missing piece here, where everybody wants to create something, and the moment they sit in front of the computer, they go on Instagram and Facebook. And I think the reason why is it's the same as that piano piece from before, where you sit in front of a piano and you were never taught how to use it. It's just a thing to mash your keys on for 5 seconds. But if you actually got taught how to use it, you might find that you're in love with it and you can play music the rest of your life.
You and I are on the same wavelength because my little brother struggles with learning Chinese so much. But you know what I said to him? I was like, Connor, I don't care what your second language is, but you have to be bilingual in this day and age. And if you're not going to learn Chinese, then you better go learn the language of computers.
Yeah. Yep. That's the one. And people say like, oh, I want to learn AI. I'm like, well, all this stuff is based on some sort of computer programming code and some sort of language. Yes, go learn AI. That's like saying I'm going to learn blockchain. Blockchain isn't just this thing that it's its own code. It's based on other core languages and principles. And computer science. If I could do it all over again, I would have done computer science, no question.
Now, you mentioned JavaScript. my AI director in China said that maybe I'd be interested in Python. So is there a particular, like, just to get a little bit specific, but is there a language or like budget CS that you would recommend to get started?
Well, out of the two, I mean, so you have some people that will be like, oh, I do Ruby on Rails. It's like, no, that's old. It's like, so Python's great. JavaScript, yes. With regards to C, C++, C Sharp, etc., I have tried my best to sink my teeth into that stuff, but that's why if you are a Swiss Army knife and you know what your job is in that Swiss Army knife, maybe I'm the knife, maybe I'm the toothpick. I don't know. Surround yourself with people that are also like that dive deep on certain aspects. So I have a team of folks that are all C, JavaScript, Python, everything to the nth degree. The other thing I would say is if you can learn some sort of core language like a JavaScript or Python, it opens the door to what many people want to do today, which is Unreal and Unity. Because as much as you can create the flowcharts of how objects interact with each other with the visual language, like connecting pieces, to be truly competitive in this space, you're going to need to be able to double click on all that stuff and actually recode it and figure out ways to make it a little faster.
My last question for you, and this is the question that I want to ask all of my future guests, is what is one outlandish prediction that you want to make about the future? This could be in the next 3 months. It could be 10,000 years from now. But just to kind of get the ball rolling, like my prediction is instead of holding your physical iPhone, that it would just be a projection that is either like coming from your hand or, you know, something where you kind of just like have to swipe your hands around, but there's like nothing there.
I think there are only two paths that we end up. I don't believe in the gray. I think we either make it to Star Trek or we're going idiocracy. There's no middle of the road. I don't think in 300 years, there's going to be like this whole middle class, lower class, upper class. I think either we figured out how to get rid of capitalism, and I'm not anti-capitalism. Don't get me wrong. I just think that it sometimes has served its purpose because we needed capital to build things. You still need capital to pay for things, but AI freaks me out so much that I go, we're going to actually replace a lot of jobs with this. What are we going to do? Is there is there a way to improve capitalism? Is there a way to call it ethical capitalism? I'm sure that somebody has that term already out there. Or some sort of system that can enable continued development of technology, but it's not about bringing money in for everybody. But I don't know, man, 8 billion people, that's a lot of mouths to feed. So there's another initiative called Save Soil by a gentleman named Yogi named Sadhguru. 52% of the world's soil is already unusable. And by 2050, it's estimated that 90% of it is going to be unusable. So I do feel that we're going to be facing some crises that will think that technology will save us. But we have a lot of people staring at their phone more than staring at a book. So my prediction is either Star Trek, it all worked out, we're so happy, or idiocracy. Like I'm a little nervous about people focusing on the wrong aspects of what it means to be a human.
Oh, man. And here I thought you were going to say, we're going to have it all figured out. We're going to get rid of capitalism, and it's going to be like Burning Man every day.
Yeah, dude. For some of us, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have a bug out bag. I've got meals for 2 weeks and a backpack. I got sleeping like shit. Like, I'm good. I'll be in the woods. My offspring and my family, we'll be fine. The problem is the humanity piece. I can't tell you the last time I spoke to somebody and I asked, oh, what was the last book you read? And they go, oh, I don't know. I saw The Last of Us on HBO. And I go, you know, we still got, it's great. I hear it's good. I always wait for like 3 episodes so I can binge watch. But we're missing some of the going to the gym for our minds. I feel like many of us are chasing clout, and it's a little, I understand it's the economy of tomorrow. You need to have 30,000 followers on this platform, but you still need to, in order to get to the 1 million followers, most people that get there are that in a noble way have something to say, not just they want to talk. And I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Emily. You made me nervous.
I like to play a game with my guest, and the last game that I played was called Who's That Crotch, which is inspired by Pokemon.
That was funny.
Thank you. And so I
You
thought,
got the
well, you know,
Jigglypuff. That was impressive. I would have failed miserably at all of that. I was like, what?
and hey, if you're into crotches as much as we are, I'm more than happy to create another version just for
No,
you.
I mean, sure, but like, I was trying to play along, and I was like, oh, I'm so bad at this. It's like the part of the show I'm the most nervous for. All right, I'll be quiet.
So that's why I made sure to create a game that really fits you. So the game that we're going to play today is Who's That Company?
Okay, I'm gonna have my hands up because you know what I just did when you said that? I went to my Chat GPT tab and I was like, no, just play along. Play along. I was like, I'll just be right the entire time. I was just gonna type it in.
I expect you're going to play this game as ethically and as honestly as possible, so I'm not worried about you at all.
All right.
But there are 10 slogans.
Okay.
And for every slogan you get correct, I will add $5 to the final point system, I suppose, this virtual point system. And so if you get all the questions correct, then you get a $50 gift card.
I'll take it.
All right. So basically, I'll say something like eat fresh, and you would be like Subway.
I would say Subway. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Okay.
Whoops. Okay, I got this.
However, because
Yeah.
I know that you're super into tech, all of the companies that that's going to be featured here are tech companies or tech adjacent.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So first slogan: belong anywhere.
I have no idea. Wait, give me a hint. Do you have hints?
It's probably an app that you use if you were traveling. Belong anywhere.
Expedia.
Oh, that's really good.
Travelocity.
Close, but Airbnb.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm getting the theme of it now. That was my
Yeah.
first loss. Okay.
It's okay. You still have 9 more.
All right, good.
The second one is think big.
I got this. Think big. Think big. Okay, hint. Oh my God, people are hating me on this one.
Dude, this one is kind of it throws you off because when I heard this, I was like, oh, it must be like a computer company.
Well, at first it was about to say Apple. I was like, oh, their old slogan, think different. Okay, think big. Okay.
Yeah, but no, this one is think big, and I guess once you hear of this brand, you're like, oh, they mean like that kind of big. Physically big.
So a tech company that thinks big. Physically big. I don't know. Amazon? No, they're
Okay.
leadership principles.
Last hint, it's got more to do with your eyes than your brain.
More with your eyes than your brain. Tech company that deals with your eyes, not your brain. Luxottica?
Okay, the answer is IMAX.
Like the computer?
No, IMAX. Like
What's an IMAX?
IMAX theaters.
Oh, okay. I thought you were pluralizing the computer. I was like, oh, I didn't know
no,
that.
sorry.
Like IMAX? Oh, okay. Okay, think big. Yeah, okay. I never thought of that. I didn't even know they had a slogan. Sorry, IMAX. Who's ever in charge of your
didn't
marketing,
either.
I apologize. I'll pay more attention.
I didn't either until I was doing research for this game.
Dang.
All right, the third one. This one should be easy. Think different.
Apple. All right.
The fourth one. Power your dreams.
Adobe?
Oh, close. I mean, no, it's not close, but
It's like
that's a good
it's a
one
creative
too.
one. Is this a creative company?
Very creative.
Pixar? No, they don't have a slogan. That'd be like jumping lamp.
Think video games.
Power your dreams. Oh, Unreal or Unity?
Oh,
High tech? Electronic Arts? No, not Disney. I don't know. Tell me.
Xbox.
They have a slogan too? Oh my God. I feel so bad for these marketing teams. I'm like in this industry that they're not reaching me. Power your dreams. Okay. Good. Now I know.
Okay, this next one should be pretty easy.
These all sound like
The ul-
motivational posters with like cats hanging from like clotheslines. Like power your dreams. That's an Xbox one. I can't. Okay, go ahead.
Right. All right, number 5, the ultimate driving machine.
BMW.
Awesome.
Okay. Good job, BMW
6.
marketing.
Oh, this one is pretty close to you. Okay, no, it's move fast together.
Move fast. Is it so? Move fast. I'm just going to name some stuff. Is it Microsoft 365, like their Office suite? Move fast. Expedia. Move fast.
Oh man, if I give you a hint, I feel like you would know immediately. But
It's in
this
Seattle,
company,
right? That's what you were talking about.
this company has actually have gone through several different slogans.
Okay. Starbucks.
But you, in a way, have worked for this company.
Amazon.
Move fast together. No,
Meta?
it's not Amazon.
Meta? Who have I worked for? I've worked I don't know. I can't do it.
Well,
I'm gonna be.
I'll give you half credit for this.
It's going to be terrible. Like there's like no one's gotten the lowest score worse than Chad. Okay, what was it?
Okay.
Microsoft.
Move fast together.
Boeing.
That would work for Boeing too, but it actually is Facebook's new slogan.
Really? It's my previous company slogan.
And they changed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it now? Do we even have one, or do they have one?
Because so back in the day, it used to be like everything is free and will be free forever, and then they became move fast together.
Wow.
So
I learned something tonight. I didn't know.
Yeah, but honestly, if like Boeing should buy that
That's
from
a good
Facebook.
one. Yeah,
It's such a good one. Number 7, this is more of like a fun tagline than their company slogan, but it's Occupy Mars.
Oh, it's SpaceX.
Good.
Yeah.
Number 8. Similar to Facebook, this company also changed their slogan recently, and the new slogan is dive into anything.
It's so funny how I used to want to work on slogans and marketing, and I guess I just don't care. Dive into anything. Google Chrome.
It's similar to Google Chrome in a way.
Safari, DuckDuckGo. Hint.
For somebody who spends a lot of time on the internet, I'm really surprised you don't know this one.
Dive into anything?
It's
Jiffy
very,
peanut butter.
This website, it's a website, and it revolves around memes.
Reddit.
Oh my gosh, yes!
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Again, I didn't even know they had a slogan. I thought they were the front page of the internet.
That's what I thought too.
Oh, wow.
And then I typed in Reddit's slogan, and the first thing that came up was they changed it to dive into
So we
anything.
probably call it that, and they call it dive into anything. Okay. We should have been in that marketing meeting, be like, there's nothing to change here. The front page of the internet is perfect.
Number 9 might be a little bit hard, but the slogan is...
Oh, yeah, like the others haven't been?
Number 9 is the way it's meant to be played.
The way it's meant to be played.
Sounds kind of dirty, right?
Yeah, grinder. I don't know. The way it's meant to be played. Hint. What industry? You've gone automotive, you've gone tech, you've gone gaming. What's the industry? Is this gaming?
You could say it's gaming. Because if I really tell you the industry, you're going to get it immediately.
Caesars.
Okay. It is something that your computer is probably running on.
Oh, NVIDIA?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay.
Damn, that hint was too good.
That was really good. Well, I only have too many options. I don't know what anything. I know it's an Intel CPU and an NVIDIA chipset. After that, I don't even know what my RAM is.
The way it's meant to be played, that is NVIDIA.
That's a good one. That's a
a really good one.
Good job. Good job, NVIDIA.
The last
Actually,
one.
NVIDIA's slogan should probably be good luck finding one. Like, every time they like launch a new product, it's like you don't get it for 2 years anyways.
I like that.
Good
yeah,
luck.
You should sell that to NVIDIA. Yeah, maybe they'll pay you.
Listen. This is going to be the world's #1 podcast in like a year. Just give it time.
Well, the last slogan should be pretty easy. Your place to talk and hang out.
Is it Meta again?
Is that what people use Meta for, to talk and hang out?
Is it Zoom?
No, but
Meta?
Zoom is closer than Meta. What made you think Meta?
Oh no, because it sounded like you're gonna be like, and did you know that like they just changed the slogan again today? Your place to talk and hang out. Where do people talk and hang out?
When you said Zoom,
Twitch?
you were in the right ballpark.
Twitch.
All right, one last guess, but I'm not giving you a hint because then it's too easy.
It's so ridiculous. I should have closed my eyes for a second. Your place to talk and hang out. Roblox.
All right, well, the answer was, oh, you're going to hit yourself on the head for this.
No, I won't.
Discord.
Oh, okay. That's good. No, it's where Slack users go to be confused. I tried to convert a team that was using Slack to Discord, and they kept saying, hey, I'm just trying to like your image, but I keep sending you like 3-inch tall cats. And I go, yeah, but it's free. It has the same. I love Discord. Don't get me wrong, but it's there's a lot of business professionals that I try to convert to Discord. They prefer a little bit of a drier experience like Slack.
You got 5 out of 10, which is great.
No, I didn't. I didn't get 5 out of 10, did I?
And because we love corporate capitalism so much, we are sending you a $25 Amazon gift card.
Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me onto your show. This is fun.
Thank you for taking your time and imparting your wisdom on us because, honestly, that's all I want at the end of the day is to leave a conversation feeling a little bit smarter and less scared about the future. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope this simulation is everything you want it to be.